What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode. Today, this is a kind of off-the-cuff conversation with Anuj, where we're talking about everything in life. Your life right now has a price that you're paying for it. Prices that you're willingly paying for it, prices that you're unwillingly, unknowingly paying for. And that might be causing you discontent, might be causing you frustration, might be causing you all sorts of negative emotions if you're not aware of what those costs are. So in this episode, I talk a little bit about what those costs are that you should be aware of, and maybe what you can do if you're tired of paying those prices without actually getting anything in return. So hope you guys enjoy this one. Yeah, I guess I would question, if you're in the balanced state, do you have the ability to go to the extreme state? That would be the more interesting thing. Yeah. Because again, like the idea of using it or losing it, if you're spending all your time in that balanced state and you never flex the muscle of going to the extreme or having to pulse into high intensity. So like that would be the example. Yeah. Maybe if we're using like fitness, is like, if you're always just doing zone 2 work balance, then when you try to go do a zone 5 like effort, it's going to be extreme, like even more detrimental or damaging to your body than if you had been occasionally training that. Yeah. Whereas the reverse of that is, if you're spending all your time in that high intensity mode, do you have the ability to back off and go into rest mode? And that's actually a different thing. And you don't lose that ability per se. Like, you could always back off on the training, go easier. But practically speaking and psychologically speaking, if you spend all your time in that heightened go, always burning the midnight fuel energy state, it's actually quite difficult to revert to balance. And this is why you will see really successful, externally successful people who've built, businesses. They make a lot of money, and like on the outside, you're like, you've already won the game. Why are you still going so hard? It's like workaholism, right? It's because they don't know how to turn it off. They can't turn it off. Mm-hmm. And in the same way, like, you use it or lose it. So if you're always going slow, you lose the ability to go fast. If you're always going fast, you kind of lose the ability to go slow, until external circumstances can force you into it, right? And so, like, sure, if you just train all the time going balls to the wall, you don't have the ability to turn it off yourself. But if you get hurt, you have no choice. Now you're injured and you're laid up. And those people tend to have, that makes it that's very painful, like psychologically. So Chris Williamson, he did a podcast or did a video the other day where he's talking about a lot of his health issues. He's like suffering with chronic fatigue syndrome. And one of the things that he talks about is how, in his life, a lot of the problems that he has, he's always been able to solve them with just brute force effort. Like, just try harder and try more and you'll make progress. And then in this particular problem, chronic fatigue syndrome, like, you can't work your way out of it. You can't work harder out of it. Like, by definition, it's like the antithesis. So like all the coping mechanisms that he's ever had for dealing with issues in his life is gone. Like, his number one primary coping technique does not work. Yeah. And so he's one of those guys now who has been going, and he's forced into a situation where he cannot go. Yeah. And so there's both the external circumstance of, oh, now you can't go, but also the internal circumstance, which is, I don't know how to mentally cope with this. Right. And that comes from both sides, really. Mm-hmm. But I would say, if you live a balanced life, and we're using these terms kind of like broadly speaking, because like, what does it really mean to live a balanced life? But like, if you're always lackadaisical, you're not really pushing hard, you're only ever working 6 hours a day, because you're lazy, not because it's like, oh, I choose to do that, but it's kind of like, you're going through the motions of life. You lose that ability to go and work hard. Okay? It's a muscle, but you probably don't have the same like psychological stress that you would. Now, if your life circumstances are changing in a way where it's like, you need to go work from 6 hours to 15 hours a week for the next 3 months, or you're going to be kicked out of your house, you're going to lose everything, your family's going to leave you and whatnot, then yeah, you're going to have a lot of psychological stress there. So like, I think regardless, I don't think that there's a better place to be operating from. I think it's understanding that there is a trade-off. Yeah. And understanding what is it that you're trading, and then paying that price willingly, and just being aware that if you want to try and pivot to something different, that it's going to come at a different cost. And I think that's also really important. Yeah. Is a lot of times the biggest price that we pay is not for the way we are, but for the way we feel we should be. So like if Chris, his problem isn't necessarily that he works so hard, but the problem for him will be if he feels that he shouldn't work so hard and yet he continues to do so. Or the reverse is, I'm lazy and I feel as though I should not be lazy. That's where the real problem comes from. It's having the expectation that the way that you are right now is wrong and that you would like to be something else. But if you're not willing to then make the sacrifices and pay the price that would get you from where this state is to where you think you should be, yes, then you will just live in a perpetual state of dissatisfaction and discontentment, because you will always have this ideal in your mind of who you should be, and yet you're never living it up to it. And so you're always both feeling bad about what you are doing and then what you're not doing. And so you're just always feeling shitty. Yeah. Right. So as James Clear says, like, if you have a dream but aren't willing to pay the price, you need to get a different dream. Yeah. Right? Because the cost of having the dream that you're not willing to pay the price of is twofold. One, the unrealization of the fact that you're not going to realize the dream. But then two, the mental discontent that you're going to feel all along the way as you berate yourself and beat yourself up over the fact that you're not going to do the thing. Right. And so if you want to make $1 million, but you're not going to do the work necessary to get it, then change the goal. Yeah. Right. Like, don't hold goals that you're not willing to pay the price for. And that sounds like really obvious. Mm-hmm. And yet we do it constantly. Yeah. And so should you be balanced and have the ability to go into peak extremes, or be peak extreme and have the ability to come back to balance? It's a trade. I mean, I don't know if there's one better place to be. Yeah. It's just whether or not it's the right place for where you are and where you want to go at that moment in your life. Because there's like seasons of life and there's fluctuations. So there's times to be lazy, there's times to work hard. Yeah. And understanding which season that you're in, I think, will help you not beat yourself up.